Ever hit that wall where you're working hard but not getting anywhere, like you're spinning your wheels?
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into Bounce by Matthew Syed, and this book might just have the answer.
Bounce is all about what it really takes to be great.
It really makes you rethink things. So, are superstars like Mozart just born geniuses?
That's what Syed tackles head on. He actually uses his own story as a table tennis champ to show it's not just about talent. He grew up next to one of the best training centers and had amazing coaching. Plus, he practiced constantly.
Okay, so having the right setup helps, but not everyone's got an Olympic training center down the street.
Exactly. That's where deliberate practice is key.
I've heard that term before. What's the difference between that and just practicing a lot?
It's not just about hours, it's about how you use those hours. You got to be focused, push your limits, get feedback, and always try to improve your technique.
So quality over quantity. Got it. But what about those people who seem like they were just born amazing? Like, how do you explain Mozart?
Well, Syed brings up this cool concept called the Matthew effect. It's like compound interest, but for skills. Little advantages, even tiny ones, build up over time.
Like, if you love music as a kid and your family's supportive, you might get lessons, meet the right people, and by the time you're older, you've got a massive head start.
Exactly. Take Mozart. His dad was a composer, so he was surrounded by music from day one. That gave him a huge advantage.
So maybe Mozart wasn't just a natural genius. Maybe it was the right environment, plus lots of practice. But what about people who don't have that head start? Can they still become masters?
Well, Syed talks about the Polgar sisters. Their dad decided to make them chess grandmasters. And guess what? They had zero family history in chess.
No way. So you don't need some special gift to be amazing at something like chess.
Nope. Bounce shows that while natural talent might exist, it's not everything. But there's another big piece of the puzzle. It's all about mindset.
You mean like how you approach challenges? I've heard of the growth mindset. What does Bounce say about that?
It's a huge part of the book. Syed believes that people who think they can always improve, even when things are tough, are the ones who really succeed.
So when you're learning something new and you get frustrated, that's when the growth mindset matters. It keeps you going.
Totally. You see challenges as chances to grow, not proof that you're not good enough. It's like instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, you say, I'm still learning and I'll get better.
This is making me think about all the things I quit because I thought I wasn't good enough. Maybe I just didn't have that growth mindset. But even with the right mindset and tons of practice, there are times when you just choke, right?
You're right. And that's another fascinating thing. Syed explores why even super skilled people sometimes fall apart under pressure.
Remember that feeling when you just can't seem to get something right, like you hit a wall? Well, Syed has some interesting ideas in Balance about getting past those sticking points. And it all comes down to how we see failure.
He really dives into those tough parts of success. In fact, he says failure isn't the opposite of success. It's actually like a step on the way to getting good at something.
He actually talks about his own really tough losses in table tennis. I mean, wouldn't you think a champion would want to just forget about those?
But that's what's so cool about Syed's point of view. He says those losses made him look closer at how he played, find his weaknesses, and in the end, he became a better player because of them.
So it's not about never messing up. It's about using those mess-ups to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Every time we fail, it's like getting feedback. It helps us adjust and try again in a better way.
It's like that saying, you learn more from your losses than your wins. It's so easy to get bummed out when you fail, but what if we started thinking of it as information? Like information that helps us get better and reach our goals.
Remember, we talked about the growth mindset. Believing you can always get better, well, it's much easier to accept failure when you have that growth mindset.
I love that Thomas Edison quote. I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. You got to have that stick-to-itness to keep going even when things are tough.
Absolutely. Think about any field where people do amazing things. They've all had setbacks, they've all messed up, but they didn't let those mistakes define them.
I've always admired athletes who can brush off a missed shot and come back stronger. It's like they use those negative experiences to push themselves further.
That's resilience, bouncing back from setbacks. And that's something we can all work on. But sometimes, even with the best mindset and tons of practice, there's stuff that can hold us back that we can't control. Things that Syed really gets into. Stereotypes.
Right, stereotype threat. I remember reading about that. It's crazy how knowing about a negative stereotype about your group can make you perform worse.
It's almost like it makes you live up to the stereotype, even if you don't want to.
So if we know these stereotypes exist, how do we break free? How do we make sure they don't stop us?
Well, Syed suggests a few things. One is to build up your self-efficacy. That's basically believing in your ability to succeed no matter what anyone else says.
So it's about having that confidence inside, that voice that says, I can do this, even if everyone else is sending you a different message.
Exactly. Block out those negative voices and focus on what you can do.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people who believe in you and don't buy into those stereotypes.
Find those people who lift you up and remind you of your worth, no matter what society might be telling you.
And remember how we talked about representation? Seeing people who look like you succeeding in areas where you might be stereotyped, that can be huge.
It's like seeing proof that stereotypes are just limits that other people put on you. When you see someone break through, it makes anything seem possible.
You got it. It's about fighting those stereotypes, not just with words, but with what you do and what you achieve.
This makes me think about all those amazing people who've defied the odds and done incredible things in areas where they were told they couldn't. They're not just role models. They're proof that stereotypes are meant to be broken.
Absolutely. And those stories, those examples of never giving up and overcoming obstacles can really inspire all of us.
This whole conversation about bounce has really got me thinking. There's this thing I've always wanted to do, but I don't know, I just haven't.
It's amazing how much these ideas can hit home, right? What is it that's been holding you back?
I've always wanted to write a novel. I even started a couple times, but I never finished. I just tell myself I'm not a real writer.
I hear you. It's so easy to fall into that trap, especially when you're aiming high. But Syed's got some good advice for getting out of that cycle.
Yeah, this whole deliberate practice thing is a game changer for me. Maybe instead of thinking about writing a whole novel, I should break it down into smaller chunks.
That's a great idea. What if you set aside some time each day for writing? Even 30 minutes can make a difference if you're consistent.
And what about when I get stuck? When I can't think of what to write, or the story feels like it's falling apart?
That's where remembering to embrace failure comes in. See those roadblocks as chances to learn, not as reasons to quit.
So like, instead of getting down on myself, I should figure out what's not working and use that to make my writing better.
Exactly. Change that voice in your head from I'm failing to this is a tough spot, but I can learn from it. Even the best writers have those moments of doubt and rejection.
You know, this reminds me of what we were talking about earlier with environment and opportunity. Maybe I need to connect with other writers, find a community for support.
That's such a good point. Being around people who share your passion can be really motivating. You can swap ideas, give each other feedback, and celebrate wins together.
Seeing other writers achieve their dreams might even help me overcome my own doubts and finish that novel. But there's this other thing. Sometimes I think, who am I to even try to be a writer?
That inner critic can be loud, can't it? Sounds like a little stereotype threat might be creeping in. Are there any ideas out there that make you question whether you can be a writer?
Well, I've always been a big reader, but I don't know if I fit that tortured artist or genius stereotype. It might sound silly, but those stereotypes sometimes make me hesitant to call myself a writer.
It's not silly at all. Stereotypes are powerful even if we don't realize it. But remember, those are just limits that other people try to put on you. They don't reflect what you're actually capable of.
How do I fight those thoughts? How do I really believe in myself as a writer?
Building up that self-efficacy we talked about is key. Remind yourself that you can do this no matter what those stereotypes say.
So instead of listening to that voice saying, you're not a real writer, I should tell myself, I have stories to tell, and I can tell them well.
You got it. And remember, writing itself is a way to build that belief. Every word, every sentence is a step towards becoming the writer you want to be.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Bounce has given me a totally new way of thinking about not just success, but also going after my own creative goals.
It's been great digging into these ideas with you. And to everyone listening, we hope you feel inspired to pursue your passions, push past your limits, and unlock your own potential.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Bounce, here's a final thought for you. What's that one thing you've always wanted to do, but have let fear or doubt hold you back? What's one tiny step you can take today to get started?
Remember, success isn't just about the end result. It's about the journey, the challenges, and how much you grow along the way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Bounce. We hope you found it as thought-provoking and inspiring as we did.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourselves.